Hey everyone, I'm Kevin with JcrOffroad. In this video, I'm going to walk you through how to install our XJ hatch ladder. So we're going to get started by showing you how to install the top mounting bracket to the hatch. So for that, you can see I've already got this blue piece of tape here. What you need to do is measure over from the widest edge of your third brake light, place a piece of blue tape like I have here, and then make a mark vertically at 6 5/8. So then once you get the provided adhesive installed to the top mounting bracket, that will line up with this furthest inside edge as it's being installed. So for this, you're going to need to take the top mounting bracket as well as the supplied adhesive and trim it to fit the inside of this back face on that top bracket. So typically the bracket's going to install just like this. Go ahead and flip it over, and this is where you're trimming it to fit, as well as installing this adhesive. There's a couple different ways you can do this. You can measure it and mark it out and then trim it separately with some scissors. I'm just going to lay it on here and then kind of push it back about 3/16 to 1/4 of an inch. Hold it in place and use the bottom edge of the bracket as a guide. Let my scissors just kind of rest along that as I make this cut. Clean up this end just a little bit, and then it looks like once you slide that back in, it's not down into the radius and it's not overhanging here on the bottom edge. So then before you get this on, you just want to make sure that that surface is clean, doesn't have any residue of any kind from your hands or whatever the case may be, before peeling this backing and getting it installed. Take your time with this, just kind of make sure you get it centered on the bracket and positioned how you want it. And then make sure you get that pressed down all the way around, as well as in the center, as good as possible. Work your hand along it, whatever you need to do to make sure you get a nice, good adhesion here. So then you can bring this bracket up top to the top of the hatch, and we're going to kind of just show you doing a trial run. I recommend that you do this at least once or twice as well before installing this to the vehicle. These small back flanges are going to hook the top edge of the hatch, and then it's fairly critical that you get this pulled back as tight as possible so that both of those are resting tightly to this top edge before pivoting it down and sticking that adhesive. Now, something you can do just to give you a little bit of extra leverage if you're having trouble both lining this up and pulling it back is stick a couple small screwdrivers in these top mounting holes and kind of pivot your hand off of the hatch to pull that back while you pivot it down. Once you're comfortable with all that, obviously just peel the backer off the other side of your adhesive and get this in place. Again, paying close attention to your mark over here to make sure you get it lined up properly. Then once you get that pushed down, again, just put plenty of pressure on this adhesive to make sure that it's going to stay in place while we do the rest of this ladder install. And then you should be able to come back in here and peel your tape out of the way as well. Once you're happy with the upper mounting bracket, you can grab this lower mounting bracket and begin getting it installed. So for that, we're gonna have to open up the hatch and remove the interior cover trim so that we can identify where we're drilling and then drill a couple holes. So what we're gonna need to remove is this entire trim, because it's all one piece that surrounds the inside of this hatch. To get started there, we're gonna remove this grab handle, take a flat screwdriver and remove these two cover tabs. And then you'll need a T30 Torx to remove the two screws holding that in place. Once you have the grab handle removed, it's just going to be a series of what looks like 8 Phillips head screws that surround this upper glass section before we can pull this out. From here, it should just be held in with plastic panel clips, so you can work your way around the edges and pop those free to pull this down. So once you have the cover panel down out of the way, you can start lining up and getting ready to drill these bracket mounting holes. This is going to have a recessed channel formed into it here. It's going to install over on the driver's side of this hatch, and you're just going to be looking to line up the notch in the back edge of the bracket with this drainage hole here. So you can go ahead and line that up, push it tight to this back flange on the bottom of the hatch, and then mark and drill 2/4 inch holes here. So you can just hold this up in place, get it lined up, and then mark out each of these holes. So once you have those marked, you can drop the bracket out of the way and place a center punch mark in each of those locations. And then, since we have the inner panel removed, go ahead and just reach down in here, make sure there's nothing you're at risk of drilling into. So once you have both of those punched, go ahead and drill a 1/4 inch hole in each of those locations. Once those are both drilled out, you can line the bracket back up with your holes. And then you'll be installing a 1/4 inch button head bolt from your hardware pack into each of those, along with a serrated flange nut by reaching through the inside of the gate. Then with both of those finger tight, grab a 5/32 hex and tighten them up. At that point, you can go ahead and reassemble the inside of the hatch, or you can wait till the rest of the ladder is installed. So now we're going to need to do just a little bit of assembly to the ladder before it can be installed to the Jeep. For this, you want to make sure that you look at the logo so you know which end's the top. And then you need to grab the appropriate step for the location you're trying to install it in. So one of these is going to have a little more angle to this bent flange than the other two. That's going to be the top step. You can take that with the flange being bent down and slide it in from the back side of the ladder between these two sides. And then again with the flange down, but also toward the back, line that up with the side holes here before installing 2 more 1/4 20 button heads with serrated flange nuts into each side to hold that in place. So once you get those installed, go ahead and leave them just a little bit loose for now until you get the other 2 steps as well as the top mounting bracket in place, so you have just a little bit of flexibility in this ladder before tightening everything up. Once all the steps are in, you'll need to install this upper mounting bracket. So for that, this bent down flange is going to go toward the front of the ladder, and it needs to slide in between the 2 sides. And then you can get this lined up and work your way around with more 1/4 20 button heads on both the sides as well as the front.
So with the steps and that top mounting bracket installed to the ladder, we can go ahead and mount this to the vehicle. For that, you can go ahead and start up top here, getting that lined up, and then get one of these 1/4-20 button heads installed on each side. Then with those 2 bolts in up top, you can finish pivoting this down and start lining it up with the bottom bracket and installing more of those 1/4-20 button heads down here. Once you get all that hardware started by hand, you'll just need a 5/32 hex to run through and tighten everything up to complete your install. So if you guys have any questions about this installation or any other JCR product, feel free to reach out to us. You can send us an email at info@jcroffroad.com or give us a phone call at 269-353-1184.